Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, for our weekly show brought to you by our show partner, Join Cycling. We have a lot of racing to catch up on after the Criterium de Dauphiné finished. We have Tour de Suisse, Bolaise Belgium Tour, Tour of Slovenia, Tour Feminine of the Pyrenees, and the Baby Giro, which actually was televised on Eurosport this year, which was pretty cool to watch. There's also some yellow cards, new safety rules have been announced by the UCI. And that's about it. Really racing heavy. There's one sort of major transfer extension that's been notified. But yeah, it's been a big week of racing, Benji. How have you been? You're still in Belgium or are you back in the UK?
I'm back in the UK now, but I gotta be honest, this last week, I swear I chose the worst week to go to Flanders when it comes to races. I feel like there were 10 races at the same time. It's how I perceive this week. So I spent the last day and a half trying to figure out what actually happened at the races, trying to catch up with all the racing, even down to the Baby Giro towards Tour Féminin International de Pyrénées, for example. But most importantly, the big races like Tour de Suisse, Tour de Suisse Women, and see what those races brought. And it's actually been a good week of racing, in my opinion.
It has. We've seen sprinters, and this as well, we've seen a lot of guys with schedules converging, which is really difficult to analyze sometimes, where you have guys peaking for the Tour de France, like Philipsen, and guys like Merlier doing their last race before they have a period of rest after the Giro. Same in the Tour de Suisse with Uiterbroeks, Del Toro, but then Yates and Almeida preparing for the Tour. Skelmo's indeed is preparing for the Vuelta.
But I want to ask you for a second here. So we've got the Dauphiné that finished about a small week ago, roughly.
We got
the Tour de Suisse that's been spent racing this week. What is the best preparation for the Tour de France seen by many teams? Because I feel like this year we see Adam Yates and Almeida doing this Tour de Suisse in the run towards the Tour de France. But then when it comes to the Dauphiné, we saw basically Roglic, Remco, Hindley, etc. All the big guns like Ayuso as well in that race. Exactly. So is that because normally you'd go straight to altitude just after Dauphiné? Does that take away a week of altitude for the riders that do Swiss, or do they do that differently by being a week longer on altitude before Tour de Suisse?
I think Dauphiné is the traditional prep. It gives you more space, to go to Tignes, indeed, where I just was, or wherever, Isola, or Broe also at Tignes, Roglic there and co. So it's... But then maybe they're thinking with the two climbers, Benji, Yates and Almeida, do they need to be ready on stage one, or do they need those guys for the last 10 days? And so I don't really know. Maybe Yates just wanted more time to prepare after his concussion and the maybe not so good shape in Abruzzo, because I think he was on the provisional for Dauphiné. So, but then it's like, this is where the trickiness was. Okay, Poggy's not doing either of the two, but Ayuso and Almeida both want to have leadership, and then there's Yates. How would that... So I don't know which race he was supposed to do, but yeah, it's... I think they did more watts in Swiss, but in theory, the start list at the Dauphiné was stronger. Whether that was actually the case, I don't think so in the end, because of Yates and Almeida's level being so high. But we had a strange course. They had loads of mountaintop finishes, too many, in fact, including the final TT. I think the final TT... Yeah, the final TT really should have been like a 30k flat TT.
Okay.
For Kung or to see the separation between the GC guys, because I just thought it was like we had a prologue, and then which was on by Lampard, which he loves a rain. Was it weather affected?
I don't actually remember.
He's a farmer, so maybe he knows about cloud seeding, and so he can like make sure it rains straight after he finishes his TT.
He just goes ham whenever there's rain, so it's like he takes more risks than other people, which I think matters a lot.
Yeah, in a prologue, a 4.5k prologue, it does. Then Brian Cockard won his second ever World Tour race in a sprint on stage 2 ahead of Bling and Dali. Dali was going to win quite comfortably, I think, but he dropped his chain as he came out of the corner. He was well positioned. Cedric Bullens was really excellent, actually, for Lotto Destiny. Badiola tried to fly, but it didn't go anywhere. Stage 3, I didn't see this one, Benji. Did Thibaut Nice just stomp everybody out uphill in the sprint?
Yeah, basically. Bolaise was just very strong on that punch. He finished on stage 3 and he destroyed people there. And it's also like he's doing this in this race. He's done it in Romandy. He's done it in multiple races across the year already. And I'm just very curious where this will go. What are the next plans on his schedule? And then I look at Bolaise's planning for the year, and it's kind of pretty calm. As in Etias Tour de Wallonie, Tour de Pologne, where undoubtedly he's going to win a stage. And I haven't seen the actual parkour, but there's usually some kind of punchy race in there that I'd expect Bolaise to be good at. Bretagne Classic, I'd expect him to be pretty good at too, to be honest. So my question there is he riding a calendar under his level?
Yes.
I think so too.
He is. I mean, what he
but is
didn't
that
do,
bad?
He didn't do the Ardennes again. Like, no, it's not bad. But it's just I'm surprised because this is the same calendar as last year, more or less. From what I can see, I was just surprised he didn't do Amstel Gold Race because he looks so good for that sort of race, or even Brabantse Pijl. Yeah, he did Frankfurt. But maybe he's not as good in the one-day races as I think because he's actually been better in the... But how many World Tour races? Oh, it's his second World Tour win after winning in Romandy. But yeah, he's won 6 races this year, which is no small feat. Like, he's at 21 years old. So he is it's like a star in the making.
I do think the races he's being selected for are absolute perfections when it comes to his race planning where he can win. Like, it's maximizing the amount of victories he can take in the race. It's like sending a versatile sprinter to races like Catalonia and Romandy back in the day.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the kind of calendar he's doing, kind of like Groves did already in previous years as well. And it's really working, but I also am like sitting on the edge of like, I want to see him at the bigger races now. So I'm very curious. He's probably not going to a Grand Tour this year, is based on what I'm seeing right now, but this man would do pretty damn good at probably a Vuelta style parkour. I don't remember how many versatile kicks there are in the Vuelta this year though.
I'd love to see him against Roglic on some of those sprints there. There's a few of them, but yeah, to your point on Groves, is his level worse than last year? I don't think so. I actually think his sprints actually in the Giro were better than I expected, but he hasn't won this year in 38 race days. And he won last year, I don't know, 7 races, 8 races. Most of them, I think he won like 3, 4, 7 World Tour races last year, or 6 World Tour races. He hasn't won yet this year because at the Giro there was Milan and Merlier, and then he did Paris-Nice and UAE. So scheduling really, really, really matters for win optimization. But back to Swiss, stage 4 was the first mountaintop finish up Gotthard Pass. Couple of climbs beforehand. It was like rolling beforehand. It was a weird, like, stepped climb. And UAE used the 1-2 with Adam Yates and not Joao Almeida. They basically let out Yates with Del Toro, who'd crashed, and then crashed Kelderman, came back, and then let out Yates, who attacked.
Mate,
and
I can hear Luke fuming behind the mute button.
There's a breakaway up the road. The last like 3Ks of climb were on like a cobble. It's quite beautiful actually. And Torsten Train was the strongest in the break. He attacked it halfway up the Gotthard Pass after the Schölenen part, where there's a bit of a flat section, and he was able to hold on from Adam Yates. Almeida sat on Skelmoser. Skelmoser was the strongest behind, but he finished 25 seconds behind Yates. Train won his first pro win, and actually Skelmoser made sure, very, very sure in the last corner, that Almeida was not going to beat him to the bonus seconds for third. Bernal quite good in 5th on 1 minute, and then only Masgal, Outerbrooks, Riccicello, Del Toro, Kelderman. Kelderman probably would have been in the, I would say, with at least with only, because he had to do a solo TT. But Yates set a stall up, Benji. He was 26 seconds ahead of Almeida on GC, and because we're going to have an Almeida versus Yates discussion this Swiss, but I think it's inarguable that Yates was stronger than Almeida on this climb.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. Yes, Almeida worked as a domestique in that segment, but regardless of that, I would say Adam Yates was the strongest rider in that race on that day. And then the next day, we go towards stage 5, and I'm thinking, okay, so far I've seen Adam Yates be the strongest GC rider. I've seen Almeida be very strong as a arguably super domestique. And when it comes to the competition, I'm thinking, okay, Riccitello's pretty solid. Skelmoser, okay. Skelmoser actually didn't do that great on on stage 5. He actually lost was a minute 40 or something.
Yeah, minute
Felix
40.
Gall's been sub expectations is how I'd say it. I'd say Pidcock so far okay, nothing out of the ordinary, but okay. Maz not really at his best, but then on that stage 5, it's basically the UAE show again. We have a 1v1 at the end of the stage between Yates and Almeida, and here Yates rides away from Almeida in the final, and Yates wins the stage. And Yates winning the stage, I think that's also partially because he hadn't won the day before that. He dropped Almeida to get that stage win, right? Because otherwise you might see a scenario of, Yates might stay together with Almeida to the line because it's only 5 seconds, and then give it to Almeida because Yates already has a stage win the day before.
Yeah, I agree. He hadn't won the day before. I think Almeida had helped him a lot on this climb, and then I could even see Almeida in the radio when he was trying to chase Yates, saying, maybe just wait, let me win the stage. But
help!
Yeah, also these bonus seconds all adding up for GC now, and the 5 seconds on the road. So Yates then 35 seconds ahead of Almeida. Bernal and I think Ineos launched the early climbs, and there's a really long valley. Bernal and Pidcock, yeah, they were quite good, but Ricciardello again 4th on the stage. Stage 6 was shortened stage. It was a 42k stage, which led to like the highest watts we've seen on a climb, I think in the 21st century. Just about, it was like a top 10 performance all time.
Wait.
By the calculations.
You're telling me that the Val Thorens shortened stage with Nibali destroying everybody wasn't the greatest performance of all time?
No, they did. Valverde should have won that. No, if they pulled for him, I think so.
I don't know, man. We don't talk about that.
Almeida wins this stage. He actually catches up with Yates, who again attacked early, and then dropped Yates at the end. Schelmers are just behind on 9 seconds, so small gaps. Martinez better there. Still Pidcock 6th, again consistent. Pelayo Sanchez 9th.
Almeida dropping Adam Yates in the final, was that a show of strength, or was that Adam Yates being like, I've got it anyway?
No, because GC wasn't over at that point. We had another big mountain stage the next day. I think that was both going absolutely full gas.
I think so too.
Then the next day, Ineos paced for Bernal to try and put time into Schelmoser, I think. It didn't end up happening that way, but again, Yates and Almeida win 1-2 arm in arm. With Yates saying after the stage, he asked Almeida, could he win? And immediately Almeida said yes. And then Yates said, but it doesn't matter because tomorrow Almeida will put 1 minute into me on the TT, in the TT. And so GC going into that final stage was the UAE show, as Benji said. Yates leading Almeida by 31 seconds. Bernal in 3rd on 151. 59 seconds ahead of Schelmoser. Pretty handy gap. Then Ricciardello, Mas, and Pidcock. So Pidcock's still up there in 7th. Did Yates really believe that, Benji, that he'd lose a minute in this it's an uphill TT. It's a mountain TT at Villars-sur-Glâne.
A minute I did not believe. I did expect Almeida to be better on this time trial, perhaps. That I did believe in, but I wasn't expecting anywhere near a minute when it comes to that. But also, have we come to the point that 2 people within the same team being in the fight for the GC both start pretending to be the underdog against each other in a stage race? Because that's what that felt like to me. Have we arrived at Adam Yates pretending to be the underdog to psychologically warfare against Almeida, his teammate?
I thought he was just being a bit magnanimous, but yeah, maybe. In the end, it's as we expected. Almeida slightly stronger on the mountain TT, winning the stage ahead of Yates by 8 seconds. I think he did the climb 1 second quicker than Yates. So it goes to show how close their level was. Schelmo's a 3rd on 20 seconds. Bernal had a bit of a shocker. He lost 1:30, 5 seconds slower than David de la Cruz, 9 seconds slower than Pelayo Sanchez, who honestly I thought was like a versatile sprinter. And he's clearly better than that at climbing. And Bernal loses 3rd on GC. So no change on top. Yates wins GC ahead of Almeida. The UAE pair absolutely dominant throughout the race. 3:02 to Schelmoser, which is a huge gap to the best of the rest. And then Bernal lost 3rd by 10 seconds, even though Pidcock waited for him, I think, the day before. Big shout out to Ricciardello, the American youngster, 5th on GC in a World Tour stage race. Then Pidcock, Mas, Only, Kelderman, and Felix Gall. Probably for the course, that is not a good performance from Gall, Benji, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well, because you've got the climbs he last year was good on. Now, the benefit of a mountain TT should also help for someone like Felix Gall. Yes, he got 10th in this one. No, that's in GC. when it comes to the actual stage itself, he got 14th, also on 2 minutes, so that's not outraged, not horrible either, but you'd expect better considering the climbing performance he put in in 2023, because in 2023 he was one of the better climbers in the world, to be honest, at the Tour de France. So I expected more from Felix Gall. Let's hope for decathlon that he is better at the Tour de France and at the Tour de Suisse. But we got to get to the discussion here. We've got Almeida and Yates finishing 1-2 in this race after finishing 1-2 in multiple stages. And I'm thinking through this. We've got UAE starting the Tour de France with Pogacar, with Ayuso, who crashed at the Dauphiné after already not feeling too great going into it. Didn't look too great after the crash. We only really saw the early parts of the Dauphiné to really judge him on, so I don't know where Ayuso is at. Adam Yates and Almeida look very much on point for the Tour de France. Outside of that, they have Wellens, Polit, and I think Soler as well. Soler's been solid, I'd say. Not outrageous, not horrible. And when it comes to Polit and Wellens, Polit's been better than Wellens, in my opinion, the last week and a half, or at least in the run-in towards the Tour de France, based on what I saw. Looking at this team, is it a completely unrealistic scenario that UAE could 1-2-3 the Tour de France?
It's not unrealistic, because if Remco, Roglic, and Jonas are all bad, then we just saw in Swiss that they had two guys way better than everybody else. But I think it's probably pretty unlikely, because it's not just about climbing. It's also like, can you get three guys through the gravel stage without a major problem with no rouleurs?
Well, they have four, so 75% success rate is necessary.
Yeah. Can you get them through the sprint stages, the crosswinds, Italian Grand Depart? That's more what I'm thinking. And, if you assume Roglic is better, Remco's better. If Vingegaard, it depends as well. If Vingegaard, Roglic, and Jonas, if Vingegaard turns up, Roglic turns up, and Remco turn up in good shape, then absolutely not. There's no way then, because there's Almeida really, really good, but you can see even his limitations in this race, in that he cannot respond to attacks. He cannot attack himself. He's like a one-pace rider. And that's why I also think, okay, maybe like the climbing overall level of Yates and Almeida this week, extremely similar. But actually the way Yates can do it means you can get better results, because Yates can accelerate, create a gap, and then a group two plays up behind. Almeida, when he accelerates, he keeps the guys on his wheel.
Fair. And
then you have to stop. You're not going to just keep pacing, even though you are strong with them. And so
Almeida is the consistency guy.
Yeah, he's just always there. He doesn't blow up. Even when he did blow up, he didn't blow up like Remco on the Tourmalet stage in the Vuelta. He still came ninth in the Vuelta. So, but yeah, I 1, 2, 3 in GC. I think it's a bit far-fetched at the moment, but we'll see when we see the start list of the Tour de France.
I think that's very fair, and I agree when it comes to the team that right now they look very good. Ayuso is the one I'm worried about because of the stuff we've seen so far, but just the gap between Almeida and Yates and the others in this race was so notable, and those are the kind of riders that are going to be fighting for the top 5 in the Tour de France and perhaps the podium for the Tour de France as well in some occasions. And then I'm looking at Roglic and Evenepoel at the Dauphiné, and Roglic won the Dauphiné, but there's question marks in that final stage. Remco had question marks throughout the race, but seemed to have growing form in the race, so maybe towards the Tour de France it will be okay. But in both, I don't necessarily see, okay, they look like they can fight for the victory at the Tour de France. They look like candidates for the podium right now. And Yates and Almeida were a bit more promising in the Swiss race, but then again, it's not against Roglic or Evenepoel. But the big question is, Patrick, with your adaptability in your training plan right now, could you podium the Tour de France?
No, I could not. I mean, maybe.
One day you will answer yes.
One day I'll do like 300 watts for 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, I'm back. I'm coming back. But no, I wanted to talk about today joint cycling and how it integrates with other things you may be doing as part of your like performance process or trying to become a better athlete. So for example, did you know that joint cycling integrates directly with the athlete's food coach, which if you don't know, is an application that helps you track your calories or recommends that your caloric intake, not just to lose weight, but to actually perform as an athlete, and joins workouts that directly synced to the athlete's food coach. Secondly, if you use something like intervals.icu, you can export your workouts for that week and put them into intervals.icu and know exactly what your TSS or training load will be that week, and even track where your fitness will be in intervals.icu. I love using the pair of them, intervals and join cycling. I think they work really, really well together because join gives me the adaptability in the training plans, and then I can track it in intervals. And but if you don't even use software like that, if you want to export your workout, you can do that as well. If you go to your suggested workout that day, click on the workout, you can see there's an export workout button. And once you click that, you can export it to Training Peaks, to a wahoo.fit file, to Garmin Connect, to a Zwift file, and then you have your workout on those platforms, or indeed it goes to your email. You can download it and have it on your Wahoo. So I really like doing that, especially if it's a complicated workout. Of course, if it's 2 by 20 minutes, even my small brain can remember that and the watts I have to do. But if it's a little bit more complicated than that, and I'm going outdoors, then I like to have it exported because, yeah, indoors, to be honest, I just use the Join workout player on my phone. So those are some of the features or benefits of Join around the app, or how it integrates with other applications that I think are really, really useful. And if you're using Join already, consider integrating it with something like intervals or exporting the workouts to Training Peaks or to your head unit. But thanks, as always, to Join Cycling for supporting the show as our show partner. Tour de Suisse Women, Benji. It's still midway through. It finishes, I think, I believe tomorrow. But Demi Vollering, no surprise, looks in a commanding lead. Stage 1 yesterday was a mountaintop finish up Villars-sur-Orlon, which must be the most popular climb in the world at the moment. Jesus, they've used about 17 times across the 2 races, men and women. She won ahead of Rialini and Chabi. Chabi had been in the breakaway. Stage 2 was a TT up. You guessed it, Villars-sur-Orlon, which also, just like the men's, have the most unfortunately placed intermediate time checks.
Yeah.
Vollering won that ahead of Longoborghini and Kadzau. My guess, Benji, is when looking at the time splits that Vollering did this on easy mode. She was literally, I think, chilling in like zone 3 tempo on the flat section. And in the last 10 minutes, she opened up the taps to, I think she put like 40 seconds into Longoborghini in the last 10 minutes.
Okay, fair. Because like, if you look at the results alone, then you're like, okay, stage 1, 22 seconds on Rialini, Chabi on 46. Chabi was actually ahead before the climb by I think 2 minutes when the climb started roughly. So Vollering had to crawl back towards Chabi, then eventually get over her. Rialini was a proper competitor here as well, but I did feel like Rialini finished closer than I would have expected based on her preseason form. So seems like she's getting towards the form we hope she will get at the Tour de France. So that's something I'm looking forward to seeing maybe something of again tomorrow, even though tomorrow's stage isn't really stage 3 is kind of that versatile hilly stage where wouldn't shock me if Vollering wins again, to be honest, but it's not Rialini territory on paper. And when it comes to the ITT today, does it then surprise you that Longoborghini does better than Rialini on a mountain TT? Or is it the flat pot at the start that fucks her?
I think Rialini messed up her pacing because she went quicker than Vollering to the first intermediate. So she clearly was pushing really, really hard to the intermediate. And so, I mean, I'm trying to look now. Rialini was 7th at T1. That's way
Crazy,
too fast. She was quicker. She was 6 seconds quicker than Kadzau at T1. She was 6 seconds quicker than Brody Chapman or Faulkner or Femke. Like, she clearly pushed way, way, way too hard to T1, and I think that cost her.
But does that mean she can compete in a 3-kilometer flat prologue?
No,
no,
it does not. Definitely not.
Hey, we can try.
She can try. Also curious, Elena Ivanchenko. I don't know if there was the Tissot watch available at the T1. Because there was at T1 when Hayter won in the men's race. So Ivanchenko smashed it to T1, so did Schweinberger, and then they sort of chilled or just not as good on the climb. But yeah, tomorrow in the next stage, I think I can't really see anyone putting Vollering under too much pressure, frankly. I think there's going to be fights to get rid of, if you're Femke de Vries in 10th or 11th on GC, I'd be looking at those stages and trying to put Bradbury and Spratt and Riolini under pressure in sort of these medium mountains with descents towards the finish.
Yes, indeed. When it comes to other races, next to Tour de Suisse Women, there were quite a few other races. Bolaise Belgium Tour happened. Started off with an ITT won by Søren Wardenskjold. And then after that, sprints happened. And I was looking forward to Philipsen versus Merlier. We had the typical Knokke Heist finish. I don't actually remember, but isn't this also part of a different race throughout the season? Because it's like the flats run into like a final uphill drag in the last 500 meters in Knokke Heist sprint.
Is this the one where Pat Eddy became the enemy of Belgium? We watched it at the Flandrian Hotel. Yeah, he was with Lampard, refused to pull, and then Casper Uden got towed.
I remember the race, but I don't know what the fuck it's.
See, even you don't remember all these all the names of these races.
It's a Belgian Chat GPT race. How am I supposed to remember it?
Could have been Brugge de Panne, could have been fucking GP Cricklon.
It was smaller.
Kraftwerk.
Then Brugge de Panne. Not then
Yeah,
Cricklon,
it wasn't
probably.
Brugge de Panne. It wasn't Brugge de Panne. Philipsen won that. But yeah, this is just Merlier territory. This is where he's trying to say, he's pumped up in these stages. He's like trying to say, with Philipsen and Koy here, I'm the best sprinter in the world. There's no Milan, but it's the 3 of the 4 best sprinters in the world, in my opinion. And he won the first sprint ahead of Philipsen, Koy third, Pierre Barbier on Philip Wagner, which is a Conti team. He was fourth, actually. But yeah, it's with that TT gain and then not too many difficulties in the later stages. Like Wardenskjold basically, he just had to, not stuff it up, but ride a sensible race and he'd have a pretty good chance of winning. Anything else from stage? I didn't see stage 3, Benji. What happened to Merlier there?
He was sprinting from Narnia, basically. His positioning wasn't good. P10, I think he was when the start of the sprint happened. Ricard was doing a great lead out for Philipsen, so he was delivered perfectly, and then he just finished it off, to be honest. And then we haven't spoken about the most important part of today's podcast, to be honest, because it was stage 4, the Queen stage of the Bolaise Belgium Tour. Arguably more prestigious than winning the Tour de France. And we've got loads of murals in that stage. Like, imagine the most epic mural stage in the world with the Mur de Derby 1 billion times. And there was none other winner than the legendary greatest cyclist of all time, Alex Aramburu. What are your thoughts?
I mean, huge win for Aramburu. Unfortunately for him in the TT, he was close. He lost 17 seconds in the TT. And then on this stage, he won with a gap to Wardenskjold of 12 seconds plus the 10 bonies. How the fuck? Am I tripping?
Gifted. He gifted it.
Where's my maths?
No, I shouldn't say that.
Did Wardenskjold take bonies in other stages? Yeah, he
must
did.
Have taken...
at the intermediate. Or was there a gouden kilometer in this race?
I think there is.
So without those intermediates, I think Aramburu would have won GC. But I really, no offense to Bolaise Belgium Tour, but I didn't follow the intermediates. That was a bit much. But yeah, Aramburu, big win. I also want to give a shout out to Pierre Gautera. He is he didn't have a pithy level revelation in the classics, but he is a revelation in the classics. He was, to be honest, when he was a trainee, I was like, this is like a Misk, just like another Misk French rider they've picked up from their U19 team and then eventually their club team. And then this year, just like the rest of the team, he's absolutely firing. 4th in GP Marseillaise, 11th in Omloop. I believe he was did the quickest Mur de Huy in Omloop, 11th in Dwars du Vlaanderen, 3rd in Trobro-Lyon.
The quickest Mur de Huy in Omloop? What the fuck are you smoking?
Quickest Mur van Gerardsbergen. Fuck, it's all the same, man. Did he do Flesh?
I don't fucking know.
He didn't do Flesh. He would have done the quickest Mur de Huy there too.
Fair.
Yeah, Omloop he did the quickest Mur. I won't say the full names anymore. I'll just call them all Mur and then you can't be wrong. So clearly a very, very nice season, but Aramburu, there's no shame losing to that man. He's just too good. And that
it's arguably disrespectful to the sport of cycling that 10 years ago, they brought out the golden kilometer just to ruin Aramburu's chances in 2024.
Dude, he hadn't won.
Shame.
His last World Tour win, or his only World Tour win, was in Basque Country in 21. He won Limousin stage and GC in 22, and he didn't win last year. And now we're in June. He won this stage. So, but he has
Nice.
700 UCI points. So,
And it's only the beginning.
it is.
He's coming to the Tour de France, my friend.
What stage is good?
Watch out, Pogacar.
Arambaru, literally, seriously, I reckon stage 2 really, really good for him. Actually, no, I don't think he can follow Poggi on San Luca. Can he be the Narvaez?
Can he be the Victor Lafay?
Yeah, come on. Big, this is your opportunity. Big, say he'll be, because if he does it, Benji, no one will care if he doesn't do it, but if he does it, you can clip it.
He's not going to win stage 2. He's going to take the yellow jersey on stage 1.
It's a flat sprint. There's fucking no chance. It's like 20 Ks from the finish, the last climb. He can't sprint.
The reality is, nobody will remember I said this if it doesn't happen. But if it happens, everybody in the comment section will be like, see, Benji said so in this random weekly show in June.
But it's nice for Arambaru to win. But the last stage of the sprint won by Tim Merlier, who did a very extended celebration, which he was kind of trying to say it was like a no big deal, but then also like, what did you think celebration? I loved it. It kept going on and on and on. After the finish, they made 4 different variations of a theme. He beat Philipsen again. Tom van Asbroek third, which Tom van Asbroek also actually he won a Provence stage this year. He's actually 34 years old. Actually having his best season for like 5 years. He's all performing really well.
Ex-Jumbo rider, right? 2015 era?
I do not know what Misk Belgian Rouleur was on Jumbo in 2015. Matthias Vacek comes 4th here, stuffs up the last corner. If he comes 3rd, he wins GC. That's how close this race ended up being, I think, on stage positions maybe. But Van Gold holds on after that TT gain and intermediates throughout the week to win GC. 4 seconds ahead of Vacek and 7 seconds ahead of Arambaru. Very, very, very close there indeed. Maybe they could have had maybe a little bit of a harder stage, but the Renewy Tour has in August some harder stages. Belgium's only World Tour 1 week race. Slovenia, or anything else from this page? Has Philipsen lost his aura? What other narratives were here?
What do you think about the rumors that Arambaru might be joining Arkea? And will he be a golden duo with Mazzato?
I think it makes a lot of sense because if you're Arkea trying not to get relegated, you take both a big scorer. If you put Arambaru on it, because he actually goes to like a lot of hard races, but if you put him on a full farmer schedule of 1 days, he can score so much. Like he can score 2,000 UCI points just about.
Every race is a farmer's schedule for Arambaru.
Exactly. Tour de France is just a small race for him.
Exactly.
But you also take the points away from Movistar, one of your relegation rivals. So I think we'll see a little bit of that where those teams are trading riders and paying more for those riders because you take away the points from your competitor.
I agree, but to be honest, the whole like group of Aramburu like riders honestly has become more expensive over the last couple of years due to the point system. Because before then, they weren't too super relevant for teams. Yeah, well, he does the most prestigious fucking stage of the world. The other day.
But like, don't worry, you can find yourself a stage from in .pro races. You don't have to pay €1 million for stages in .pro races, like, and he is a better rider than that. But yeah, to your point, I think they have gotten more expensive, Benji, because it's like, well, he can go to Eschborn, Frankfurt, podium. Then you send Marseillais, Trofeo Laguelia, all that stuff. Britannia Classic maybe can run 7th, 6th, 80 points. Thanks for coming. National champs. I thought Cofidis were going to sign him, though. Did he come top 10 in San Remo?
In the past, yes.
Yeah. Cofidis also wouldn't surprise me because they have the Basque. Cofidis is big in Spain, and also they have some Basque trainers, I think, and they also have the Izagirre brothers. So that also would not surprise me if he went to Cofidis, who are also in the fight for relegation. But yeah, I feel bad for Movistar losing another another of their top scorers. It's going to be
Well,
tough for them next year.
it's probably because they didn't pay him as much as Arquette did.
Yep. What else? Philipsen and Merlier. Do you still think Philipsen... Oh, sorry. Do you think Merlier should do the Tour now, Benji, seeing his shape?
It also depended on how you perceive Remco's shape. You know, if you
yeah, true.
if you believe he can podium the Tour de France, then you might consider a full team for Remco. But then again, I take Merlier anyway.
That's the thing. There's like both of us are aligned for the last few months. A good Remco also needs a good Merlier.
Yeah.
I also think Merlier, if you tell him we'll bring Bert to the Tour, you can go for the sprints on the real pure sprint days,
Mm-hmm.
on the gravel, on the other stages. You have to help Remco. Surely he says yes.
Yeah.
I think he would say yes.
Do you want to bring Bert as well? Because
yes,
no offense, but Bert is not going to be the most supportive rider for Remco. I think he's not like he's not. He will want to. He's definitely going to be happy to do that work, but he's not the ideal character for that, in my opinion.
I mean, how did Quickstep lose all the time to Koos in the Vuelta last year? It's because they couldn't control a breakaway to save their life.
Yeah, but it's not going to be their responsibility all the time to control the breakaway. It's the other teams that will have. UAE will be the one controlling a lot of breakaways or trying to in the Tour.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Bert can help Remco a bit on the flat, and sure, if you have, I wouldn't leave him out for a Tej Benoit style rider, but they got Moscon, Casper Pedersen. You know, is he that good? So,
well, if Pedersen is going towards the Tour de France, then
he is, no?
Use Pedersen as lead out for Merlier. He's not as prominent as Van Leidenberg in the last year and a half. The duo hasn't worked together that much. But then you have the benefit of the rider that was already planning to go, and Merlier feeling like he has a lead out.
Yeah. Well, we may take both, drop Van Wilder, take the... What?
Is that based on Dauphiné form or?
Yeah.
Fair, I guess. I wouldn't do that. I would keep Van Wilder in.
But if Remco then is not in the shape to podium, then to me it becomes absolutely clear you have to take Merlier. Because we just saw the pressure the team was under in the Netflix series, and that was not fabricated. Stages go past without winning a stage. Well, there's a lot of sprints here, and you have arguably the best flat sprinter in the world. I think it's a no-brainer to take him, actually.
Is it surprising that Asgreen is not in the team of Remco yet? Or has he gotten worse over the years and therefore not necessarily the ideal candidate for it? Because I feel like in the past, the man has done well in climbing stage in the past. And in Strade, he had great results. Over the years, he's become not as good as in the past, but you'd still expect him to be a solid asset, Moscon style, in a Remco team. I never understood why that wasn't the coupling that they did.
In theory, like, Asgreen should be the way better version of Casper Pedersen. Asgreen was doing third last man lead outs as part of the train in 2021 for Cavendish. It was Asgreen, Ballerini, Mercu in the last 2Ks. And he can climb, and he's a big engine. But I agree, it's surprising he's not on the list, Benji. He was in the Belgium Tour. No fantastic results either. The TT 6th, but then in the Aaron Baru stage, not there. So,
well, only one man that can win that stage, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, you got to be special to win that one. But yeah, it is curious. He's out of contract. We'll see what happens. See what happens there in Tour of Slovenia. We won't go through every stage, but Giovanni Oliotti won GC by 10 seconds ahead of Bilbao and 26 seconds ahead of Giulio Pellizzari. Healy snuck away to win the last stage ahead of Christoph, although I do think Bahrain throughout the week, if they'd gone all in for Pello Bilbao, particularly chasing Aliotti in the third stage, I do think Bilbao should have won GC here, but Aliotti often riding, defending himself, particularly in the last stage. He did a fantastic job to win GC. So yeah, full marks to him, and he's actually had a really nice season. He was quite good in the Giro. Bauhaus and Groenewegen went 1-2 in the flats. Sorry, Bauhaus, Groenewegen, and who's the other one?
Oh god, I had the list in front of me.
Did Christoph win one?
No, he didn't. So
No, he didn't.
Groenewegen,
He didn't.
Bauhaus, Alioto, Bilbao, and Healy.
Yeah. Sorry,
Christoph got
was
second in the
denied.
last stage.
He was denied the last stage. But yeah, Bahrain, bit strange. They had Moritz and Bilbao in the group, clear of Christoph's group with Aliotti isolated, and I couldn't really figure out what they were doing. Paul Double also a good result. Baby Giro, Benji, who is Jano Vidal, the next Pogacar I'm hearing?
The next Pogacar, I don't know which rider he is. He just won the Giro Next Gen, which is the baby version of the Giro, the U23 version of the Giro d'Italia. Now, in the past, we have said that the Giro d'Italia Next Gen, the U23 version, doesn't necessarily always translate to the biggest talents in World Tour. But that being said, I feel like that's different with Jarno Widar, because I swear I've been following this guy for a year and a half at least now, and he's been doing really well when it comes to juniors, winning races left and right, then stepped up to U23. He's now 18 years old, so that's first year U23. And he's been rather successful, winning Alpes Tour, getting second in Lizard, winning races throughout the season as well. And then I look at Giro Next Gen, and it really started to show he's very versatile. Because at certain points in the past, I was like, okay, he's a puncher. Okay, he can climb. Okay, he's got a punch at the end of a climb. And he seems to be a super light guy. I don't know his exact weight, but his attacking style looks like Pogacar. And I think that's where that comes from. Because he attacks like in the hoods in a very accelerative way. Is that because the people that he was with don't have it anymore to respond, potentially? Because he really has something left at the end of the climb while the others don't. But he dominated that race. I think that's fair to say. Even though in GC it's only 52 seconds on Pablo Torres from UAE Next Gen or Gen Z. Sorry. All these names of the U23 teams these days. And another Spaniard's Martí Pau from Israel Premier Tech in third, also on roughly a minute. But I really feel like he had everything under control. He said after a specific stage, I think yesterday, he said, okay, I felt like I had to defend myself today when it comes to my positions. The breakaway going up the road, I don't care. The closest rider is on 19 minutes. I don't care. They can win. And when it comes to the riders in the peloton, it was actually quite easy because they never even tried to attack me. So I like talk like that. And he delivered. So I'm expecting big things from this man. I heard a rumor that he might have signed with Lotto Destiny already for 1 or 2 years after the U23 segment or something. But I'm not 100% certain of that. I don't vividly remember the rumor that has passed the desk. But I'm looking forward to see what this guy got. You got anything else on this race?
Yeah, he's another one kind of like Remco, of not the same junior results as Remco, but you see in juniors, small man wins classics races. He must then therefore be able to climb and punch. It's like mathematically impossible that he is not a decent climber if he's winning Tour of Flanders juniors at his size. And then indeed we saw that he was stepping on people here. So really, really, he's been the best U23 rider. Indeed, as Benji said, as an 18-year-old, best, Nordhagen was in this race, had to abandon.
Yep.
Vidar wins. He's been the best U23 GC rider. So Lotto Destiny, once again, the talent factory, De Lee, Lambrecht, Van Gils, Vidar, they keep producing these Belgian talents at Lotto Destiny. In fact, more so than Quickstep, more regularly than Soudal Quickstep, in terms of the punchy GC guys.
When it comes to Quickstep in the past, they had this like development team. I think it was called Klein Constantia. I think that was like
Enric Mas and Tratnik were on that, no?
Yeah, I think that was a South African wine brand, if I remember correctly. Garcia Cortina, Cavagna, Narvaez, Schachmann. That is 2016. So quite a few riders we know already. 2015, I see the brother of Buhani, so Erik Bashka, which was a bit of a sprinter back in the day. Before that, it was called Ethics, and I see the Hulgaard brothers there, Nick Schultz being on that, Wisniewski, who was a World Tour pro for a significant amount of years, no clue where he ended up. I think he might be in Q36.5. Alaphilippe was in that team, Patrick Conrad, Seneschal, Petr Vakoc, good puncher back in the day in the Brabantse Pijl style races, and those are the 4 years that I remember from this. But they also then, they had a year where they signed...
10-year World Tour pros.
Yeah. And they had a specific year where they signed Asgreen, Almeida, and Ian Garrison, who then dipped out but
Yeah.
those two in the same year, if I recall, where they reset a bit. So it's like Lotto's doing well when it comes to in-house development, but Quickstep's been good in the past when it comes to that in-house development, but they were also solid at signing new riders that were young. But I feel like when it comes to Quickstep, Manier is good. Lamperti has been showing
good.
quite a bit.
Van Gele was solid.
But in the last 2 years since Remco, I feel like I've missed a few. That makes sense?
Yeah,
Who
like,
else has come along?
I mean, they're young, so it's too early to write off Manier, obviously. But you know,
Yeah,
as
for
a
sure.
guy who's won races, and he was at this race,
Yeah.
and he won 2 of the sort of uphill sprint stages easily, or like versatile sprints. One was ahead of Tim Thorn Teutenberg. The first was ahead of Conforti and Gal Glivar, who's a Slovenian on UAE Team Emirates. UAE Team Emirates Gen Z. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. But he, I think, is maybe a last year U23, so I dare say, will be on the World Tour team next year. But yeah, what do you think of Manier being in? Because I was debating this, I think, with Benoit, and what do you think about Manier? He's won a pro race already. He's on a World Tour team doing Giro U23 with the Devo team, not with his nation like in L'Avenir, doing with the Devo team.
Isn't this like a similar story as when we had Mauro Schmidt doing Elite World Championships?
Yeah.
No, U23 World Championships after winning or being very competitive in actual World Tour races before that. It feels very similar to me, that story. So we've had this discussion before, and I don't know what the good answer is, because on one end, he's U23, so he can ride whatever you want. But if you then win races at a certain level, that means you're as good as being on a certain level. But does that mean you should be taking away the opportunity of doing those races just because you're too good for your category? Not really, in my opinion. It's very difficult. I don't know the solution.
I don't mind it because it means, like, you know, I then look, okay, Manier, how close was Lorenzo Conforti, the Bardiani rider? Oh, he was actually quite close behind Manier in the first sprint that Manier won. So I'm like, maybe Conforti actually is really a decent, versatile sprinter, because I've seen him now do it against a guy who's winning at World Tour or pro level rather.
Wait. For example, Fedorov rode the ITT Elite World Championships and 5 days later won the U23 World Championships. That's a similar story, yeah? He rode the Elite one before he won the U23 one.
Did he?
In 2022? Yeah. 2022, he did the ITT of Elites and then did the U23 road race and won it.
Yeah, I don't think you should be allowed to do that. I think once you compete in World Championships as an elite, then that's like, does that mean Thailand could do the World Champs U23 this year, even though he did World Champs Elite last year? Like, that would be that. Then that to me is a little bit ridiculous. But
this might be a very dumb question, but are there U23 events at the Olympics? No, eh?
No.
Okay, sorry.
No. Speaking of 18-year-olds, Matthew Brennan won the last stage, the Brit on Visma Bike Devo in a sprint ahead of Berhens, Nicholas Berhens, who's like a big German engine. He's like 2 meters tall, and I dare say he will be on the World Tour team next year. He's turning 21 in November, and he looks like a Dan Hall regen, maybe even a little bit better, frankly. Berhens and Brennan looks like a superstar in the making. So
also World Tour next year, right?
Yeah, you are correct, Benji. You are correct. 25, 26, 27. So these contracts, they ain't short for the big guys who were juniors 6 months ago. Otherwise, in Tour Feminine International de Pyrenees, Guazzini won the first stage, then Ostolaza on the Basque Team Laboral. Well, I can't pronounce it correctly. It's like the hardest. This is the hardest one in sports, Benji.
Kucha, Fundación Euskadi?
Laboral Kucha Fundación Euskadi. Okay, yeah, he did it in the end. She won GC ahead of Valentina Cavallà and her teammate Irani Blanca. That was also televised on Eurosport if you want to catch up. But the rule changes, Benji. You'll have to run me through the yellow card system.
Okay.
Like I'm an idiot.
So, the UCI has chosen to implement and or test new rules in cycling for safety purposes to try to make the sport safer, which initially, that's a great line. I think that's great. I think that's what they should do. They should be trying new stuff to try to make the sport safer. And the biggest headline was, like you said, the introduction of a yellow card system in the sport. Now, we've been talking about a yellow card system offline and online for the last 5 years. Because, let's be honest, we don't feel like the current rule set is necessarily adequate nor applied consistently during the races in this sport. And there's specific moments where a relegation or a disqualification might not fit, while a yellow card might fit. And I don't know whether this will solve it. One of those occasions, in my opinion, is what happens if a sprinter is in the wheel of a lead-out, the lead-out is done with his work, and after being done with that work, that lead-out hinders the opposing sprinters. The sprinter of that lead-out's team ends up winning the race, but can never be penalized for the work of that lead-out. A good solution for that, in my opinion, would have been an implementation of a yellow card system where the lead-out can get a yellow card. No, where the sprinter can get a yellow card if his lead-out fucked someone else over to increase the chance of a sprinter. And maybe this could be some part of this new yellow card system in the future. But, so, yellow cards in the sport. How will this work according to the UCI's new rule set declaration? So, a system of yellow cards will be introduced from 1st of August 2024, with a trial phase running until the end of 2024 at men's and women's professional road races. These yellow cards will represent the sanction, but won't actually physically exist. So you won't see the UCI commissaire rolling open his window and like pull out a yellow card like a referee in a football match. That's what we won't see. But they will be listed on the race communique, which is like a document that is given out after each race finishes. That includes the fines, but also now the yellow cards. And sure, this rider does something wrong, gets a yellow card. What happens then? 1 card? Not much. 2 yellow cards. If it's during a 1-day or stage race, that will lead to a disqualification from the race and a 7-day suspension starting the day following the receipt of the second card. So after 2 yellow cards, you get a 7-day suspension. After 3 yellow cards within the 30-day period, you get a 14-day suspension, starting the day following the receipt of the third card. And if you get 6 yellow cards within a single year, you get a 30-day suspension, starting the day following the receipt of the 6th card. Clarification at the bottom says, a yellow card that has been taken into account for the imposition of a period of ineligibility shall no longer be taken into account in the future. I have no clue what that sentence means.
It means if you get a 30-day suspension, the 6 yellow cards get like erased when you then come back from the suspension and get further yellow cards. So like once you get the suspension, you get the reset to 0.
So, but in what way? As in, you get reset to 0 after the 6 yellow card, not after the 2 and 3, because otherwise you'll never get to 6. True. If you get reset to 0 after 2 yellow cards, then you can never get to 3 yellow cards.
And then you get the, maybe it then means like you don't get after 5, you don't get another 7-day suspension because you already served a 7-day for the 2 and a 14-day for the 3. Yeah, I see that. Now that's confused me.
Because to me, if you get 2 yellow cards during a 1-day or... this is also weird to me. The 2 yellow cards during a 1-day or stage race, by saying it like that, it sounds like you need to have both in the same race, but that's probably not what they mean.
Yeah.
Is this within a certain period of time?
Well, the 2 is during a 1-day. Yeah. You have to get 2 yellow cards during a 1-day race. That makes no sense when you also get disqualified with 2 during a 21 stages.
Exactly.
Like if you get 2 in a 1-day race, you've probably done something. You need to be banned. I think it's good. I think it's good we've been asking for this, Benji. Ultimately, okay, the fine details should be massaged a little bit. It will be a trial phase. I do think if Philipsen receives a yellow card but isn't relegated for his move on Van Aert in stage 3 of the Tour last year, does that make him behave a little bit more? in the rest of the race, because then he would, in theory, receive a yellow for his move on against Ancorn later in the race and be disqualified. And again, you get disqualified, you lose green, you're gone.
Yeah.
So I do think it's really, really good. I think the suspension amounts for the 3 and the 6 are woefully inadequate. If you have a six yellow cards in a fucking year, 6 in a year, that means every second sprint you're doing something that's almost sanctionable.
Yep.
You should be suspended for at least 3 months.
I agree.
Like Buani got suspended for 3 months for one thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, if I take a look at this, there's multiple things where I'm like, this seems off. And like you said, the first one is 2 yellow cards during a one-day race or stage race. To me, that should be 2 yellow cards within X amount of days. Leads to a 7-day suspension. Then, obviously, if you do get that, you also need to be disqualified from the race you're at, in my opinion, as a consequence. Because then you're suspended from that day onwards, so that's only logical. When it comes to 3-day yellow cards within a certain period, sure, 14-day suspension. And then I look at 6 yellow cards within a year. It's almost as if, I agree, it should be way more than 30 days if you have 6 yellow cards within a year. But this would also mean, the way I'm reading this, that if you get 4 yellow cards, you will once again get a 7-day. No, it depends on when you have it. So, I don't know. To me, this is a very imperfect system. I would like this system to be as simple as you get 2 yellow cards within X amount of time, you get a 7-day suspension, you get 3 yellow cards in a specific amount of time, you get a 14 days, whatever, X amount of, even three yellow cards within a 30-day period. Sorry, but
that's pretty bad.
That's pretty fucking bad.
I think, yeah, and it depends on the gravity of things that are going to be given yellow cards. So I don't know. I don't know if these will be. You know how when there's like in the UCI rules, there's like the offense and then the sanction. Do they go with the fine for the offense now in the rules?
So according to the UCI media press release, this yellow card system, yellow cards were going to be given at penalties represented in the rule set 12. Whatever. I opened that rule set, and that's literally a list of all the possible penalties in the sport without a specific mention of yellow cards in it. So unless they adapt the rules and specifically say which rules it can be applied on, this is purely based on the subjective opinion of a commissaire in a car when to give a yellow card, which I think is also a mistake, but maybe that's because the rules haven't updated accordingly yet.
They got to iron that out, because is this for when a guy nearly kills someone, pushing them into the barriers in a sprint?
Or for littering?
Is this for littering? Exactly. Is this for exactly? Is it for littering? Is it for when Alaphilippe or Sivakov took their helmet off? I can't remember which one, to change it because of Alaphilippe. Is it like we think? Oh, this is because Mathieu Van der Poel laughs when he's given a fine for his elbow on Binny, and that's what this is, because really the commissaires have been too chicken to relegate anybody when they win for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But it could be abused also, or not abused, but it could be like really inconsistently applied between races. Yeah. So that's a concern. Second, they could also, it's not just for riders. I'm pretty sure it's also like if you're a DS, you can get a yellow card for driving dangerously in the convoy.
Good. But then again, if you drive very dangerously, gotta get more than a yellow card, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, 6 yellow cards within a 1-year period, 30-day suspension, assuming it's for like reasonably serious things, that seems inadequate. Given that, yeah. But we'll see. We'll see. It'll be noted in the commissaire's report from August 1 in UCI races.
Just in general, I have a feeling about this that I like the implementation of a yellow card system.
It's a good idea.
But it's implemented in a UCI way. As in, it reads like it's not been thought through fully the way it's implemented. But then again, it's a testing period, so I hope they learn from that testing period and that we quickly... But also, I don't like the testing period being based on necessarily a not so thought through system, because then teams might be like, oh, we don't like the system at all. And people might be like, oh, we don't like yellow card system as a consequence of a badly built yellow card system, right?
Yeah, they might say, look how unfair it is, and it's, you're getting yellow cards or suspensions for minor things like littering, and it's, Van der Poel gets held out of a Britannia Classic because he littered the week before or something. Yeah, it could happen. Could happen. Because
But
we don't know exactly what they're going to. But I think it's a good idea. I'm very, very, very much looking forward to
yeah.
seeing it implemented.
Next few things, there's 4 other things. There's an option to expand the 3-kilometer rule to a 5-kilometer rule. I think in the past, some races tried to do that or have done that in races where they expanded the 3-kilometer rule to a different point. But now it's like physically written into the rules, right? That they can expand it to 5 kilometers whenever they deem needed. For example, I think this is actually it's not going to be a super consequential rule change, but I think there's situations where it can be useful. Like there's a downhill at about 3.5 kilometers to go. Everybody's fighting for their position for the 3-kilometer segment. Okay, by moving to 5 kilometers, that fight is now before the downhill and not in the downhill itself, right?
I think so. It's like, I again don't understand this, Benji. Is it who decides?
So now the organizers can, I think.
But couldn't they petition the organizers to do it in the first place? Didn't they ask ASO to do it on stage 3 of the Tour 21 where there was a huge crash with Haig and co?
I think so. But maybe now the organizers can do it without consulting the UCI?
Yeah.
Is my guess.
I think they're going to do this in the Tour already on some stages. So,
yep. They were going to test it in the Tour, which is... and also the same is going to be tested with a 3-second rule in sprint stage, but we got to talk about it. I swear the 3-second rule has been applied numerous times in sprint stages before.
What do you mean? Like that they don't put people on a time gap when they're on a gap of 40 meters?
Yeah, so the rule set is now saying that I vaguely from memory now, because I just killed the UCI media tab, which was stupid. But basically, there was a 1-second rule in the past, according to the document, where if a group is ahead and you were dropped by more than a second, you'd be put on a gap. In my memory, that was already 3 seconds in sprint stages. But according to this rule, 3 seconds will now be the default or something.
Yeah, I think what actually happened... I remember, Grisha reminded me. Because remember when Roglic and maybe Carapaz or Bernal got put on a gap in a Vuelta sprint stage years ago, and Froome like protested the next morning?
Yeah.
I think it was Vuelta 2020. And so what commissaires could do, so the spirit of the rule was basically 3 seconds, no gap.
Yeah.
But if you were not in the biggest group and there was a gap of 1 second, they could put you in on time. So you had to be in the biggest group. So, but normally in practice, in the sprint stage, 99% of the time in practice. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
There's a technical corner lasts 300 meters. There's not a crash. There's just someone loses the wheel. And the sprinters go clear and win 10 of them. And there's a gap of 1.2 seconds from 10th to 11th.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And then that happened sequentially throughout the groups. If you were in like a group of 5 just behind the peloton or something, you could get put on time even though there was a gap of less than 3 seconds. So now it's, I think, supposed to be like a hard 3 seconds between riders, which is what I actually thought it was until I forgot what happened in that Vuelta stage. Very, very technical stuff. Will it stop GC riders still sprinting for 13th in Tour de France stages? Probably not.
But might disincentivize a few. So I think it's good that the rules are there, these two changes.
Yeah.
Is it the ideal solution for 3-second rule? I think, yeah. For 3 to 5 kilometer rule, I think we're going to have discussions about that for the rest of eternity in this sport. But next to that, there was also... Go ahead.
I don't believe in the 3-kilometer rule.
Okay.
I think it doesn't matter sports. I don't think it makes anything safer. I don't believe in it.
I think that's somewhat fair. The issue is that I never know if the UCI or anyone that implements these rules actually did research on the data to see whether these rules or the 3-kilometer rule is ever effective in the first place. But anyway, all that aside, there was also appointment of a safety analyst. Sorry, but wasn't there already a UCI safety manager? What's the difference?
Well, SAFE is like an independent third party, or supposed to be a body outside of the UCI, outside of the teams, funded by the teams, no?
How independent is it? Because right now it sounds very much in conversation with UCI and teams in a very close, compact thing, no?
I think it's independent of the UCI.
Okay. Is it independent like we have it thingy, the Riders Union? Or is it actually independent?
No, I thought Safer was created by the teams.
Okay.
Because
we've had some drama in that, right? Because we had the new president ARGCP, which is thingy from JCO.
Brent
Copeland. And then I swear there was some criticism from Richard Plugge on the Safer thing not moving forward because of politics, which from the outside, it's very hard for us to realize what's actually happening in the structure of Safer. But I felt like nothing was happening until this whole release arrived, which it's good that this showed up. But finally,
I also didn't know what was I think the change in the ARGCP then influenced what was happening with Safer, and I also thought, is it dead in the water? But no, it seems like it's now there will be a Safer safety analyst for races, which sort of like, if you think safety is not good enough, then you would then say the UCI safety manager hasn't been doing a good enough job either.
Fair. Last point, restriction on earpieces. This is a very controversial one in my opinion. They want to test the effects of a restriction on wearing and using earpieces in races this year. Measure will be tested in selected professional one-day races and stage races. I find it very good that they want to test the effects and that they're not necessarily just applying a rule. So whatever your opinion is on earpieces, you should applaud that the UCI is testing what side has the benefits, in my opinion. Now, when I think about removing earpieces, I start to get worried, but because I'm thinking, okay, I like sports tactics. So I'm thinking, okay, will less tactics be possible? It will be harder to apply tactics when you're not in contact with your team car. On the other hand, you won't have a DS shouting in your ears, oh, get to the front, dangerous corner coming, whatever. But on the other hand, riders also won't get information like, oh, there's gravel on the road in the next descent. Oh, the gaps towards the group ahead is that. So if the earpieces of the teams are gone, I feel like riders need a neutral race radio in their ears to know what the gaps are and to be warned of dangers coming ahead.
I think, you can't, from a safety perspective, with 200 people on the road with possibly a landslide happening. I mean, how can you just remove earpieces altogether? I don't know. Do you think this is motivated by safety, Benji, or like the thought that earpieces don't make the races entertaining and riders are robots and, they should just ride on feel and panache and head units and earpieces are turning them into robots with no open racing?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. Depends on which person is behind the scenes working on things, because I vividly remember there being a document. I was going to say Geneva Convention, but I'm pretty sure that's not related to cycling. It had like a name of a city. What, sorry?
Cycling's in there if you look closely enough.
Jesus. Lugano document, I think, from like the 2000s somewhere, where the UCI declared that to like limit the progress of technology to not make the sport too robotic. That's my interpretation of that document. But that could be one of the reasons that the UCI is still performing. And I think Michael Rogers sent me that document last year in related to Faulkner having that thing in Strade Bianche.
Yeah, the continuous glucose monitoring device, which is banned in competition. But yeah, I disagree that like power meters and head units make racing boring. I think that's actually kind of a misunderstanding of how races actually take place. Or the dynamics of racing, indeed, that if you think riders are just... First of all, pro riders can ride within 10 watts of what... Like, without a head unit, they can pretty much know within 10 watts what they're doing. Like, riders know when their power meter is miscalibrated immediately, even, like, slightly off. So, the idea that... And they're still going to train with them. So, they're still riding to feel it. And also, when you're following in the mountains... You don't say, oh, well, actually, they're going a bit fast. Even though I could hang on, I'm gonna ride the watts I want to do. It's just, I don't see it. Maybe I think that's a throwback to the Sky days where Sky had a pacing plan, but today, nah.
Because like
For safety, I kind of agree that, yeah, having 1 million directors to 200 people saying get to the front can't be the best.
mate, I just realized the Olympics is being ridden with 4 riders per team, 3
Yeah.
riders per team, 2 riders per team, without earpieces.
Yeah.
It's gonna be absolute chaos.
That's how Kiesenhofer won.
Yeah,
And Van
she
Vleuten
won because
celebrated.
of earpieces.
Yeah, like, was that better? Kind of. It kind of was.
The race was entertaining, but it made the Netherlands look so stupid.
I think if the riders ride without earpieces all year,
Yeah.
Kiesenhofer wouldn't have won.
I think so too.
Actually, what happens is no break gets allowed to go. If a break does go, it gets no leash. And it's because it's like, well, they're used to the dynamics of no earpiece racing. And so Kiesenhofer would have, the second they saw she was on 3 minutes or whatever, because they do get shown the time gap, then they would have, with 100 k's to go, just drilled it. So I don't think if they ride with it, it would have made it better. But yeah.
Anyway, I think it's good that they're testing the effects instead of just applying a rule.
The one thing Luke picked out of the UCI is a long release, so I know this is heavy on rules, but this is actually the most interesting one to me, and is on transfers, and that is that the new. This is just a like not even like a footnote, just a random thing. But Luke thinks, and I sort of agree with what they're saying, that they might change the 1st of August rule. So if you don't know, you are allowed to negotiate with riders on another team who are under contract that year in respect of future years for which they are not under contract. I.e., Movistar were legally, or not legally, of course legally, but under the UCI rules, Movistar were entitled to negotiate with Carlos Rodriguez in January 2023 in respect of 24. They were not able to register any contract they had with him with the UCI until August 1, nor announce it till August 1.
Okay. Question. What about stuff like the conversation we heard of Ineos talking to Remco last year when he was still under contract with Quickstep for this year?
That is not permitted without the agreement of the team, i.e. Soudal Quickstep. So you cannot approach a rider and speak to him or her about signing with your team in respect of a contract year for which they already have a contract with another team without the agreement of that team. So that's why essentially that creates the buyout situation, Benji.
Yeah. So to be clear, what we are interpreting from that one line from I think it was the calendar announcement, not necessarily the new rules. I don't actually know which of the two it was. We're concluding or interpreting that this could be a change in the date of which you can register contracts with the UCI.
Yeah, this is not about buyouts. This is about normal contracts for like when they're out of contract and you sign another rider from another team. And the UCI said these new rules favor greater transparency by imposing communication obligations, but also offer greater flexibility by authorizing the registration of riders without a contract and no longer limiting the time periods for signing contracts or communicating the arrival of a rider. So basically what that means is when Movistar signed Carlos Rodriguez, it's a pre-contract because it's actually under the UCI rules, they cannot register him with the UCI yet. So say you've done a great scouting job, you're a Moneyball team, and you've got a guy in, but then the other team realizes they're pretty good. You can then get into a difficult legal battle where it's like, technically you don't have a binding UCI riders contract with them yet because it's not August 1st, but you do have a legal contract. So in the end, for both of them to avoid it going any further in practice, they sort it out. I think this is good. I think, why should you have to wait until August 1st to register your contract with the UCI? Now, you should have to keep it secret, let's say, until August after the tour to not embarrass other. I think it's very bad not very bad. I think it's not good if you allow other teams to announce the transfer to your team at the Tour de France team presentation. That is not good.
The day before the Tour de France Flamme.
They do that.
Twist D works, yes.
Wait, SD Works announced they were transferring her from Sunweb.
No,
the day
there
before.
was a leak, or I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know who announced it. I don't know if it was SD Works announcing it, but it came out the day before the Tour de France film.
Right. That sort of stuff should be prohibited because that is just not good for the sponsors of the incumbent team or existing team.
I'm saying but then again, if it's a leak, then it's not SD Works' responsibility either. But
this is like now they will be able to. But you should be able to register the contract officially with the UCI. I don't see why you shouldn't, because then you have Movistar or whoever. Then you're in a much better position to say, okay, we can take a buyout still, but maybe we don't want one. Maybe we just want to keep this rider, and we don't want to get, and we shouldn't have to get into some sort of legal stoush. We were there first. We signed them, and I think it's good to allow it earlier.
Now, there was also another thing in related to that, where I think it also said no longer. Well, let me check.
While Benji's checking, the second thing I would like to see, which is not in here, is that the UCI calendar ends October 30th or 31st. Yeah. Because, like if Tolhoek gets suspended, he tested positive in his A sample in November, I think, that will count against Trek, but he, for all intents and purposes, wasn't a Trek rider anymore. He was going to a different team and had left the team, packed the bike up. So I think for transfers and that stuff, I think really the end of the calendar. Vort has also said this, I think, and I agree that October 30th, it's the last UCI race of the year. That's when contract should end.
Yeah, okay. By the way, I haven't found it, so I'm just going to skip it. But I think there's one light point we can end this podcast on, that there's a new World Tour race coming next year, which is the Copenhagen race, a Danish World Tour race. I've been asking for it for 5 years in a row, especially with Pedersen being at the top in World Championships, Vingegaard showing up, Algren winning Tour of Flanders. To see that country with the fan base that it has, to have a World Tour race, that's excellent. Bad side of it, it's probably going to be flat in Copenhagen.
Mads Pedersen World Championships.
Is it?
It's too flat.
If it's purely flat, and isn't it in preparation of the Tour de France, in the preparation period of the Tour de France?
It's on the Wednesday before National Champs, I think.
That's basically another option next to Bolaise Belgium Tour for Philipsen to go to before the Tour, for example.
Yeah, this looks like a Merlier Philipsen cleanup. Particularly maybe if the Belgian Champs is too hard of a course. So I think it would be in this Wednesday. It in the calendar is sort of where it would be normally before the National Champs.
I wish there was a World Tour race in Denmark instead, in Velje or whatever it's called, Vele, that hilly circuit in the Tour of Denmark.
The one where Remco went off the road.
No, the one where Remco nearly doubled everybody in one of the years.
Oh, no? Yeah. Could have been the same race, just a different stage.
Probably is the same race, actually.
There's got to be some hills somewhere in Denmark. Is there a way they can construct some sort of, even a 300-meter climb for Vingegaard to win it?
Mate,
to get him?
The Danish Van Berg.
Yeah, just create a rubbish pile about 300 meters high and get Vingegaard to do it. And there you go. Skjelmose will probably still win. He's a better classics rider, hilly classics rider. But Trek will certainly be at that race. I don't know if it'll be given the sort of Cadel Evans treatment where you don't have to go. I dare say teams will not have to attend that, even though it's at World Tour level.
Every World Tour race after 2017 is optional, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Like Guangxi, they don't have to do...
Yeah, as in, that started in 2017.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like TDU, they do have to do, but Cadels, they don't have to do.
Yeah. I think TDU should be optional. I'm just kidding.
When did Renewy Bingo Bongo E3 start?
Shit. Is it? I think it's actually... I think teams have to go. I think that should be an optional race. It should be a case by case and not depending on when it started. Sorry, but...
Eneco Tour of Benelux, it started Hold on. It started in the Netherlands when it first started in Mechelen.
Mechelen is in Belgium, my friend.
Well, PCS has a Dutch flag, so suck shit. It's been colonized by PCS in 2005. Maybe because it finished in, I don't know. I think they just acting like there was some sort of civil unrest in 20 years ago. All right, that's all from us. This week we have an interview with Jim from Join Cycling, as well as maybe a little national championships recap, depending on how good some of them are. But we'll see how we go. They're all on next weekend. I don't know if they're the Saturday or the Sunday, but the French one's normally very, very good, as well as the Belgian ones. And now Luke is saying in the chat they also have a Mechelen.
But I'm not allowing Luke to say that. Yes, they have a Mechelen in the Netherlands, but our Mechelen matters more because the Eneco Tour decided to start in Mechelen, finish in Mechelen in Belgium, then go to Heel in Belgium, and then eventually go to the Netherlands, because everybody knows you might as well start a race in Belgium because there's more interest there.
Well, we'll see. Territorial dispute may keep running between Benji and Luke after the pod finishes. But thanks for listening as always. Hope you enjoy the pod. We'll see you later in the week. Ciao.